Hello there guys, my name is MrYorkiesWorld and once again I am back with yet another scenery review. This time we're going to be taking a look at the new Orbx Leeds Bradford for Microsoft Flight Simulator. The airport itself carries the ICAO code of Echo Golf November Mike. It's a fantastic piece of scenery that runs really well inside the simulator, so I'm very excited to tell everybody about it. So, as always, I'd like to thank my good friend Dominic Smith and the team over at flightsim.com for providing me with a copy of this scenery from Orbx. It is truly remarkable. So we're going to kick things off with probably one of the most common questions that I'm going to get, and that is surrounding performance. Now, performance at Leeds Bradford is pretty impressive in this particular case. I was able to get frame rates between 45 to 60 FPS, depending on what aircraft I was using, along with what weather, what time of day, etc. I noticed the usual stutter from the simulator when panning around or using the SimConnect reliant programs such as Little Navmap, but overall I am happy to say that I was able to get a pretty good flying experience overall from this airport. Now, I'd like to think that I give the scenery a pretty good looking at when I test the various ones out that I've tested, but obviously in Flight Simulator 2020 I'm able to use the drone camera, which is equally as good to see things up close. It's all fine and dandy flying over something at like 3,000 feet in the air, but I think the real true beauty comes from being able to see these things up close and personal at maybe 1,000 feet, maybe 1,500 feet in the air, possibly less than that, especially with the drone camera as well. So overall then, a good 45 to 60 FPS on high to ultra settings. You can find all my settings in the description on my website, or indeed on the video that I've got on my settings on the channel for more information about that. So overall, performance-wise, absolutely brilliant. Moving on to another very important aspect of any particular scenery, in my opinion, is night lighting. Now, I haven't been able to see any negatives really with any scenery in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 at night. The sim just looks incredible overall anyway, but I took the time to see what Leeds Bradford looks like at night, and I was yet again very impressed with how things look in regards to dynamic lighting around the airport. The lighting of the runway, the apron, the taxiways, the terminal buildings look pretty nice as well. Now, sometimes with night lighting, especially in previous simulators, a piece of scenery can really be let down when it comes to the graphics and visuals of what it looks like in low light. So nighttime, maybe early morning, maybe sort of late evening. Things can sometimes look really poor, but in the case of Leeds Bradford, things actually look pretty nice overall, and Orbx have done a fantastic job in my opinion. The textures still look very crisp, even when you are in sort of like the dark of night. Again, I've always loved taking a look at different types of scenery in the evening or early morning as well. There's nothing quite like the lovely view of an early morning or late evening shot taken at this particular airport, or in any airport for that matter. But everything looks absolutely fantastic and stunning in the case of Leeds Bradford. Now, as ever, I do like to be two-sided on these things. I don't just want to sit here and say how amazing it is. There is one thing I didn't like, and it's actually more of a sim thing than it is an Orbx thing. I don't think it's down to Orbx, but I didn't like the floating lights that we seem to have in the simulator, like floating orbs at night. Now, this doesn't seem to be isolated to just Leeds Bradford, so it's not Orbx's fault. But I wonder if there might have been some way for maybe Orbx to put lampposts or poles in place that maybe meet up with those existing orbs that we see in the sim, and maybe that could have made things look a little bit more realistic actually. Again, that's just my opinion, and again, it's nothing to do with Orbx, it's not Orbx's fault, but I just feel as though those floating orbs really do ruin the scenery, which is otherwise absolutely fantastic. So maybe Orbx could potentially do something about that. They probably won't, but that's just my opinion. So moving on to the graphics, textures and models. So speaking of graphics and textures, again, the airport itself looks stunning, even up close with the drone camera. I was able to get some really nice looking textures and effects. But one of the things I didn't like was how some of those textures, despite most of them being really good, seemed a little bit blurry. I could tell when I was sort of closing in with the drone camera on the terminal buildings, the signage and the advertisements, that the texture quality seemed a little bit low. Now, my texture quality is set to ultra in the simulator, so it really can't get any better than what it already is. And I also noticed that some of the cars from certain car parks seem to be incorrectly placed, making them look as if they've actually crashed straight through those advertising billboards, which is a little bit unrealistic. Some of the warning signs and hazard signs featured around the airport were a little bit blurry up close as well, But for the sake of actually flying into and out of the airport, I don't really think that it's that important. I mean, I don't really pay too much detail to the signage and stuff like that anyway, because not only do I use little nav map or EFB in my simulation setup, but, you know, the warning signs and stuff, it's all just eye candy, so to me it doesn't matter, but to somebody else it might. The runway textures look really good as well. It looks really crisp even up close, and the PAPI lights seem to work well and be accurate to what they would be in the real world in terms of positioning and sort of modelling and stuff like that, so I was really happy to see that. So lastly, I think some of the areas such as near the entrance to the airport, they need work. They're very, very blurry and very poor quality. It literally goes from there being a really good set of visuals on the terminal buildings to what looks like grass and just like weird blurry road textures just outside the front doors. So maybe that is something that could potentially be improved in a future update. So moving on to accuracy then. So as we know, the simulator uses a completely different type of technology to what we've seen in the past to model the buildings, the terminal buildings, everything around a particular piece of scenery. So having seen Leeds Bradford Airport on Bing Maps and Google Maps, and also from various other sources online, I can see that Orbx have done a really good job in making this piece of scenery look very, very much the same as its real-world counterpart, with only a few minor differences in building textures and models here and there. Again, maybe the issue with the cars being positioned in a way that looks like they've crashed into the billboards is something that can be improved upon. But aside from that, I am satisfied that things look very, very acceptable and very accurate to the real-world counterpart of Leeds Bradford Airport. So moving on to price point and marketplace. So Orbx Leeds Bradford currently sells in the Orbx Central app, or the website, as well as inside the in-sim marketplace for around £13.67 in the United Kingdom. You can convert that yourself if you want to use Google or whatever to get a good idea of how much it is in your currency. I would say it's definitely worth the money that you pay, judging by what you get for that money. Now, Orbx seem to have lowered a lot of their prices on the products as of late, which seems to tie in with many people's expectations that prices would plummet, at least temporarily, once the new simulator was released. That said though, I don't think Orbx have lowered the quality that much at the same time as the price, and I'm perfectly confident that the price is right for this particular scenery add-on. So what is my final verdict? So overall, when it comes to visuals, Orbx have really impressed me with this piece of scenery. Leeds Bradford is one of the airports in the simulator that I've probably been visiting quite a lot. Maybe not on YouTube, but outside of YouTube, in my own simulation environment, I've visited there quite a lot. Now, I'm obviously waiting for the PMDG and Aerosoft aircraft to be released for the simulator, which will basically allow me to visit even more when I do full flight videos, etc. And even for now, with the short VFR flights that I do in lighter aircraft, I seem to be visiting this airport quite a lot. So I definitely recommend that you check out this piece of scenery. You can purchase it directly inside of the Microsoft Flight Simulator Marketplace, or indeed from the Orbx website or the Orbx Central app. I'd like to thank my friends over at flightsim.com again for providing me with this copy of the scenery, and you can head on over to their website, which will be linked in the description if you want awesome add-ons for all of your favourite simulators. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.